A few weeks ago, my wife and I had to put our dog to sleep. And if you've ever been in that moment, you know how emotional it is. Are we doing the right thing? Is he really gone? Will he ever forgive us? And in that moment, I also happened to look down at the growing pile of wet tissues on the couch next to me, thinking about all the people who've cried in this exact spot and how much snot has soaked into this couch. And on top of all of that, I had to be at work in an hour. Are you feeling it? 60 minutes to go from real-time existential crisis to professional game face. And fortunately, I have a pretty understanding workplace, but I wonder what it's like to be in a high-performance job like Disney princess. Disney actors are well known for being able to stay in character no matter what, and that's how they create the magic that we count on them for. It's like if we passed out in front of Snow White, instead of calling 911, we'd expect her to sing it to her birds. But I wonder if I had just found out that Snow White had just put her dog to sleep and was going on in 60 minutes, would I be able to stand in that space with her and help her grow to everything she had the potential to be? And I'm not sure, because when I stand in that space with my kids, all I've got are platitudes. You got to put on your big boy pants and get to work, which is true because pants are important at work. But it's not very helpful because in those moments, it's not about the rules or the techniques or the platitudes or those 7 simple steps. I think it's about getting better at being human. And so I'd like to talk to you today about how we get better at being human. And specifically, what I'd like to show you is a pattern where for generations we've avoided our humanity rather than learn from it. And if we can see that pattern, we're going to see it everywhere, in organizations, in our politics, in our families, and hopefully even in ourselves. Because if we can see that pattern, then we can stop blaming ourselves and each other and start learning how to get better at being human together. So, to understand this pattern, we need to go way back to the dawn of humanity, to the cavemen. Because if you think about all the stuff that bothers us, I think it's interesting to think that there was a time when none of that mattered, and then all of a sudden all of it did. One moment, everything is simple, and the next moment, nothing is. One moment, we're fine being completely naked. And the next moment, man, I got to lay off the carbs. One moment, our mate is just a means to satisfy biological urges. And the next moment, we find ourselves really, truly caring about her. And then, of course, in that moment, a pterodactyl snatches her. And as we're running for our lives, how do you think we're feeling about our newfound humanity? And that was the moment that started our precarious love-hate relationship with our own humanity, and we've been running ever since. Now, fast forward a few million years or a few thousand, depending on your belief system, and you'd think we'd gotten better at being human. But a client was telling me about an employee who kept falling asleep at work. Now, if she were Sleeping Beauty, this would be a success story, but she wasn't, so they put her on the HR process. And she needed the job so much that she sent her kids away to another state so she can get more sleep. And the worst part is that they were so far down the termination process that they had to fire her anyway. And we think that this is a story about bad people or problematic employees or inhumane workplaces, but we know that these spaces are more complex than that. It's the same challenge that we see in the burnout and the disengagement and the anxiety and distrust and polarization we're seeing everywhere in our workplaces, and it's the same challenge that caveman was dealing with. Being human is hard, and we're not good at it. And instead of getting better, we just keep running. So, let's zoom out and take a look at that pattern. Step 1, we are terrified of our humanity. What that caveman figured out in that moment was that being human isn't just hard, it's meaningfully hard. It's like wandering with no map and no flashlight into a deep, dark cave, which you'd think the caveman would have been better at, because cave is literally in their job title. We don't just struggle, we worry, which makes our humanity existentially terrifying. So, how do we handle our terrifying humanity? We don't. Step 2, we avoid it. Instead of learning better to be human, we try to be anything but human. Instead of facing reality, we create protective illusions just to cope with it, because we're terrified of what we might see if we look into that deep, dark cave. Step 3, instead of getting better at being human, we create anti-human systems to protect us from our humanity. For generations, we've been believing these protective illusions, so we turn them into rules, norms, doctrines, hierarchies, institutions, all there created to enforce our distorted reality. Now, our organizations did not create these patterns, but they sure make them obvious. Think about how we handle workforce incivility. When our lives get more complex, our frustration is bound to show up at work, and we don't know how to handle it. So instead of asking our employees how they're really feeling, we tell them to keep their opinions at home. And then we create policies and norms about what kind of opinions and feelings are appropriate at work. And then we try to contain that whole emotional situation with behavior management systems and policy and performance management systems. So you're starting to see why humanity is so stuck. For so long, we've been trying to control our humanity instead of learning how to navigate it. So, you guys figured out who's causing all of this yet? It's those other people, right? You know, the dumb, evil ones. Anybody thinking that maybe it's us who needs to get better? Because the truth is that we, you and I, right now, are suppressing our humanity, and we think it's the right and responsible thing to do. If you don't believe me, imagine for a moment what the world would be like if we stopped suppressing our humanity. And all of a sudden, our minds fill with visions of anarchy and chaos and weaponized office supplies. And I get it. My ideal leader used to be Captain Kirk. I'm the boss, I make the rules, I tell you what to do, and you better do it. Because that's what good leaders look like, right? And it only took a few dozen insubordinate employees and my own kids to point out how much of a tyrant I was being, and they didn't use the word tyrant. So why does all of this matter? Because we're caught in a vicious cycle. When we control, we stop trusting. The more we try to hold people accountable, the more we create the very environment where we'd be foolish to take accountability. The more we avoid our humanity, the less we learn from it, which means the more dependent we are on our systems for control. And when our controlling stops working, what do? We tighten our controls, which just makes us more dependent on our systems that we built for controlling. It's like trying to teach a child how to cross the street safely by telling him that he can never, ever cross the street. Our solutions are causing the problems. And we're doing it everywhere, in our organizations, in our political and education systems, in our cultures and religions, and in our families and personal lives. Now, at this point, you're probably wondering, what's my technique for fixing all of this? Wouldn't it be great if I had 7 simple steps for managing our entire complexity of our human condition. But then again, isn't the need for our simple solutions what's causing the problems in the first place? We keep searching for better systems. Wouldn't it be better if we keep getting better at being human? So the real solutions come when we start recognizing the pattern and we stop falling for it. And then maybe we can cause fewer problems. So when we stop avoiding our humanity, we can start embracing it. And we can learn the capabilities to navigate it, which is where the real learning begins. We find a whole new relationship with our humanity. The humanity that used to terrify us now becomes a solution to all our problems. And those organizations that amplified our problems now become the leverage to resolve our problems. We can create organizations that cultivate human capability rather than suppress it. I mean, we're in organizations most of our time anyway. Let's make them ecosystems for development. And when we develop humans, they don't just transform their workplaces. They transform their families and their communities and whole societies. For generations, we've tried to cope with our humanity by controlling it. Maybe it's time that rather than escaping from our humanity, we learn to get better at it. So first, for our organizational leaders, thanks for letting us blame you for all of society's problems. You have the opportunity to become the leverage that turns your organizations into ecosystems for development. And those capabilities can help us create extraordinary results and make meaningful differences in the world. Stop hiding behind hierarchies and policies and learn to stand with your team members in that yucky human space. And for the rest of us, for the Disney princesses and the sleeping employees and the cavemen, stop falling for the pattern. Being human is hard, but it doesn't have to be bad. And we're not good at being human, but we have the potential to be way better. Let's learn to stand in those yucky human spaces so that we can all rise together. Thank you.